you're from, and then we'll do the pledge. How about, who wants to tell us? Oh boy, you pick, Hillary, so go ahead. Yes, come on.
Yeah.
My name is Lucy Colonna.
Okay, and what's your troop number? Yes, you go ahead.
We're troop 50493.
Awesome. All right, and who's going to lead us in the pledge? Okay, you'll all do it, all right? So we'll all stand up, please, and whoever wants to start us up, can start us up. Okay, you right there. You stay. Here we go. Here's the flag over there. And go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome.
Very good.
So if you'd stay for one moment, ladies, maybe we could, why don't you have them say their names? Everyone say their names.
Okay. Can everybody go down the line and introduce themselves to us? Let's start with you, Mimi.
My name is Dominica Marzella.
Oh, all right.
My name is Liliana Daniela Versiaga. My name is Taylor Madison Cash. My name is Scarlett. My name is Paige Elizabeth Forrestine. My name is Marla Elizabeth Acklear. My name is Caroline Elizabeth Bishop. My name is Wesley Baker Benga. My name is Lucy Dennis. My name is My name is Lucy Mary Top. My name is Ruby Princess Bishop.
All right, that's awesome. So thank you so much for coming and leading the pledge tonight. It's a real honor, and thank you for serving in the community. That's so awesome. Anybody want to say anything?
Did you guys sell a lot of cookies this year?
Yes.
You did? What's the most popular flavor?
Thin Mints.
Thin Mints, really?
They're like,
My favorite's Tagalongs.
I like Samoa.
Do you have a sugar-free version?
Yeah. No.
No.
We have gluten-free, but.
Oh, there is a gluten-free version. That's nice.
Everything has sugar.
Gluten-free.
There's like no cookie that has sugar.
No,
Nice.
cookies have
We
sugar.
like sugar.
Well, thanks again.
Let's
and
give a round of applause.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Well, why don't we all stand up while they're taking a photo? This is a good idea.
1, 2, 3. Yay. Thank you.
Great job, girls. My seat's extra long.
Now take the roll call.
Rita Bettino. Here. Tom Butterworth.
Here.
Janet Fung. Luke Kaufman.
Here.
Mike Morrow.
Here.
Maria Norton. Here. Kimberly Norton. Here. Hillary Orman.
Here.
Christina Ross. Here. Eric Tunham. Penny Young. Jennifer Zonas. Here. Thank you. We have a quorum.
All right, we'll now call the meeting to order. We'll move on to agenda item number 2, minutes, approval of the minutes for the regular meetings held on March 27, 2025, April 1, 2025, and April 3, 2025. Can I have a motion? Maria, second. Hillary. All right, so we'll now open it up for discussion. Does anyone have any edits to the minutes that were forwarded around earlier today?
Just, I sent to Tucker some very minor typos, so I don't know if you want to go through those or just.
Yes.
Did you see those edits in the email she sent to everyone? Did those incorporate? She sent an email.
I did.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
they were
Mike did.
incorporated.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, well, I guess we could refer to those as the minutes, or do you want to say like amendments? You tell me.
As amended.
As amended? That's fine. Okay, so we'll have, then the motion will be, it's an amended motion to approve, well, which minutes did we amend? Do you know what
The
dates?
March 27th.
Okay, so why don't we do this? So we'll do one motion for amending the March 27th, 2025, and then we'll do a separate motion for the April 1 and April 3. So we'll make an amended motion to approve the meeting minutes for March 27, 2025 as amended. So Christina, you'll make that motion. I'll second it. All in favor? The motion passes unanimously. Now we'll have a second amended motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 1, 2025 and April 3, 2025. Hillary makes the motion. Kim seconds. All in favor? The motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll now move on to agenda item number 3, public comments. Members of the public are welcome to speak to the town council on agenda topics scheduled for review and/or vote. Speakers are requested to provide their name and street address, and comments will be limited to 2 to 3 minutes, subject to the total number of speakers. We have a speaker in the audience. What?
We have one person in the room.
Yes.
Who'd like to speak.
White Bromwich, please take, let's say the stand. Please take the table.
Take the mic. Roy, can you just make sure you turn on the microphone that you're using? Can you just hit the button for the microphone that you're using so we can all hear you?
Turn it
clearly?
on and pull it close.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
Yeah, pull it close because TV land needs to hear you. Okay.
Green.
He's double miking.
Above my pay grade.
Thank you.
Don't time me, I'm setting up.
Ready?
2 to 3 minutes, Roy. 2 to 3 minutes. 3.
Just give me a half an hour. Come on, Mike. Set my timer so I don't get in trouble. Thank you. Okay. So I want to talk about the hiring the same audit firm. Now, I don't know if it went out for bid. I have no clue. But I have a problem with the audit firm because, you know, an audit isn't about historical numbers. Maybe that's 5 to 6 to 7% of the audit. It's about internal control and best practices. This audit firm has continually missed lack of internal controls, lack of segregation of duties, and management's override of controls. And they never disclosed the related party until I brought it up. A related party is not quantitative, it's qualitative. This is my management letter to one of my international shipbroker audit clients that I just sent out on March 16th. An omission or misstatement that is monetarily small in amount could be considered material as a result of qualitative factors. So what they said about ASC 850 is totally wrong. And in my mind, they're not independent. Why? Because they're protecting the client and they're more interested in a $113,000 fee. And then they go to the state of Connecticut and they give you a clean opinion and say there is no deficiency in internal control. Now, how is there a deficiency? Number one, you have an elected official who was once an appointed official voting on who's on the audit committee, who's on the finance committee, who's on the ethics committee. That is the direct conflict. Those committees are not independent because they're supposed to review that person's procurement. Number two, okay? When we have $463,698 of sales to the town by a related elected official, and my auditor comes in and says, well, it's below $500,000, it's not material. That is the biggest hogwash I've ever heard in my career as an auditor, okay? I brought this up and I've been told ad nauseum. There is a state vendor list, no such thing. We have a vendor number with GMC Assistant Corp, okay? After you get that, it's supposed to go out to bid, okay? The same party votes on all of this. Your auditor is not doing you justice. Now to the bonding. $463,000 versus vehicle seals from 6/30/24 to 11/27/24, all bonded. They're all bonded. Why do you bond an asset that has a 3 to 5 year useful life in a 10-year bond? So you're paying 5 years of interest on a phantom asset. That's not best practices. That's my spiel. The town's got to do better. Any questions? Because I'm going to leave. I was accused of leaving too soon before.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you very much.
Have a great night. And I hope there's some value in what I said.
Thanks, Roy.
Thank you, Roy.
All righty.
Thanks for your service, people.
On to agenda item number 4, independent accounting firm. In accordance with the Audit Committee Ordinance 62-5B, the members of the Audit Committee acting as an ad hoc committee, along with the first selectman and the chairman of the town council, recommend to the town council the approval of the engagement of PKF O'Connor Davies as the town of New Canaan's independent accounting firm to include the annual audit for the year ended June 30, 2025. The base fee for the audit services is $113,450. Additional fees for services beyond the annual audit scope will be negotiated separately. 5 minutes. And Kelly Lentz.
Well, you just took everything away from me.
Oh, well. Thanks for coming.
I would actually open up for any questions that you might have in relation to, it's the engagement letter for this upcoming audit. And as Mike said, it's broken down into 2 pieces. The Board of Ed is the town is about 57.8, and the Board of Ed has actually 2 types of audits, totaling 55.6 to come up with 113,000. So it
And maybe just for sake of full disclosure, can you just briefly describe how PKF became the chosen auditor for just that process?
We did go out to bid. We went out last year. And we were fortunate enough to actually get 2 bids. Most towns are not getting anybody but their incumbent. So we got 2. PKF was the best of what we chose. I shouldn't say the best, was the best for New Canaan. And they were chosen through a panel. The audit committee went through that themselves. They vetted both companies and then chose PKF as the audit firm.
Can I ask what other companies they were considering?
CLA. Used to be Bloom Shapiro.
Okay.
They came in as well.
All right.
But we were fortunate to at least have a choice on it.
I'm familiar with the accounting firms.
Okay. If any questions, comments, anybody?
So why was this firm chosen? Was it based on price or services or?
I can't speak for, because I didn't participate in the choosing of this firm, obviously, because they're going to be auditing finance and everything. There was a lot of different things in terms of the service, the pricing, also the historical knowledge of it. With my office having a turnover in staff, there's a lot of historical information that's lost there. It changed the principal. No, she's a partner. That changed over as well. So it's a new person taking over the account as well, who knew New Canaan but took over the account. But I don't know their true decision because that was done with the audit committee.
And PKF has experience with our town for quite some time, so.
Yes, and I found them to be very thorough. Last year was, in my 3 years doing it, 22, 23, 24, last year was very, very thorough in the level they went into.
That's a good point, Mike. The experiences they have, that's highly valuable. But also, just like in banking and accounting, there's been a lot of consolidation. So the name always doesn't translate to the people that know the town. So I just want to highlight that is that, Markham has been on an insane, they've been gobbling up firms all over the place, is that it's key that we have a relationship with someone, not just a firm, because, in today's world, there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions. So it's good to know that people that have a good relationship with that firm are continuing to have a relationship with that firm.
And staffing was a big thing too. A lot of the firms are struggling with staffing. And we had no problems with timing, staffing for those audit firms, because that's what we're in conferences I'm going to. They're talking about that is actually a problem with the firms with staff turnover, keeping the staff. It's a different environment now. So they have a staff to accommodate us to make sure we hit our deadline.
That's exactly what I'm saying, is that they acquired another firm that they're now putting onto this. That's not the case. It's like staffing is good. So those are really good signs that, we chose the appropriate.
I wasn't in the meetings. I didn't vote, but I was in the meetings where we discussed the audit firm. And there was some discussion by members of the audit committee about the ability of their staff to be on site versus the other firm was not as willing to be on site. So there was some of that conversation was important too.
Yep.
It's a great firm. I mean, I've done a ton of business with them, but it's, with acquisitions, you put the name on the banner and it's like, that's not really the firm that you're dealing with. It's good to know that those options are there and that commitment is there. So that's fantastic.
And I just, I think it's important
Important
to,
to address.
yeah.
So I'll address the comment that in terms of that. That did come up. We had
We're talking about the bonding of the
the vehicles. So our vehicles are 10-year life. So that's why they're bonded. We had 3 vehicles which were Board of Ed sped vehicles, which are in the value of about $65,000. That's a 10-year van for them. And then we had a couple on the town side, but that is something we would typically bond because of the life on that, to keep that in there.
Oh,
And the
thank you.
bond expiration matches the
That,
term.
the depreciation, or yes.
We have
the
20-year
payoff.
bonds, we have 10-year bonds. So we would do a 10-year
10-year
bond.
bond.
Yeah, I think we had to.
Yep.
So.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other questions on this particular agenda item? All right then. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Do we have to vote on, do we vote on this? Yes, I think we need a motion.
You're gonna make a motion.
Okay. I move to approve the engagement of PKF O'Connor Davies as the town of New Canaan's independent accounting firm to include the annual audit for the year ended, June 30th, 2025. The base fee for the audit services is $113,450. Additional fees for services beyond the annual audit scope will be negotiated separately. That's my motion.
Second. All right. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, agenda item number 5, financial update. Financial and budget update, review and discussion of year-to-date financials.
I'll give you the quick overview for what you get on the letter. So our tax collections have been, this is through March. Our tax collections are sitting at 100.7, totaling at 159. But what we do need to add is that we, as you know, we had a tax sale yesterday. And we had 9 properties that were originally out there, but we ended up only having 2 properties that ended up in the tax sale. So between all those properties, that was bringing in just over that will bring in and has about $2 million of back taxes. And it's properties that are 3 years or older in owing taxes, car taxes, house taxes, sewer taxes, and we bundled that up and we just had 2 that were in the sale yesterday. So that's actually coming into the April numbers you'll see. So it's pretty strong. Building permits have reached 137.1%. It hasn't changed much from last month because of those 2 with the 2 developments. We had Cherry and Burtis that put that in. That's a one-time only for this year, obviously. So that's why that had an increase. Conveyance fees are actually still very strong, and we're also going to have now conveyance fees with these properties changing, possibly in this year. We're not sure yet. But they're totaling 1.53 over the 1.5 budget. We do expect that obviously is going to continue because the stronger months are May and June for us for conveyance fees. Parking revenue, it stands at 103.7. We're about 191 ahead at this point, but if you remember, there is an agreement that at the end of the year, there's a calculation that approximately $110,000 actually comes out of the general fund and goes into the parking fund. So this 191 will be 91 for the general fund. Interest is currently at about 80% of the budget. We're doing it about, so long as the rates don't change, it's about $200,000 a month in pure interest, not the gain or loss. So we expect to definitely go over our $2 million budget, excuse me, by the end of June, if the rates stay the same, we're hoping. Tipping fees are about 67%. They will kick up a little bit more as we go along. It's a slight decrease from last year, but we expect it'll be still strong. From the expenditure side, we're on budget. There's no surprises in that one. So we don't see any issues in that at this point. So if I have any questions on it.
Ms. Jones, any questions on the financial update? Having heard none.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
Move on to agenda item number 6, which is projects, appropriations, and bond authorizations, review and approval of the following projects, appropriations and bond authorizations. And Kelly Lenson, Tiger Man.
also in front of you. Christina thankfully requested the details for the authorization. As you know, we go out for a complete authorization by each department. But then amongst that, within that authorization could be 5 or 6 different projects or more under that one authorization. So would you prefer to go through each one, or how do you want us to go through this?
Do we want to make a motion on each resolution and then discuss each one? if there
Probably
needs
the
to
best
be?
way to go. On you'll do each in a motion for each one.
What do you think, Christina?
I just would like the breakdown of costs included in the resolution. So however you guys want to handle this.
I think on the process side, I think it makes sense, you know, so we can kind of keep it.
We don't
Do you want to present, how do we normally, when we have a series of bond authorizations to do? Sorry, my memory is just.
You can refer to the authorization as printed on the
Agenda, so you don't have to read it.
And to incorporate this line item detail as an agenda, on the agenda, or incorporate it into the detail of the agenda, or no?
Authorization is what you're authorizing, the 3 million, 100, that, this is not what you're authorizing. You're authorizing that just the dollar amount. These don't
Okay.
typically go in because it's only one amount you're authorizing.
Oh, so it's just the total from each, or each
Yeah, so
subtotal.
did you,
And then maybe we could just include this as an attachment to the minutes.
No, because the issue that I have is that these are budget numbers.
Mhm.
And if we approve the resolution for 5,095,000 and change, we are approving that amount for town projects. It doesn't delineate the projects that we are funding.
Budget line.
that's not how the authorization works on it. We don't do an authorization for every single project that's going to go under that. So we would have an authorization for like, I'm trying to think, for town buildings. We don't authorize every single project that could be under that authorization. Because it's in the 5-year capital plan.
Right, but then an account is created
Yeah, and accounts are created after the fact
with
for
that number.
with those numbers. We do create a budget in there based on that authorization.
How do we go on the record that some of these projects listing each individual appropriation is what makes up the 5 million?
It's in your 5-year capital plan, sorry.
Go
But
ahead.
it's in the 5-year capital plan. So if you take the total of all these authorizations, it's in the 5-year capital plan.
And it's actually this year's budget.
Yeah, and it's
And
in,
you don't even need to go to the 5-year. It's
sorry, this year's,
It's this year's, what you approved on April 3rd for the capital budget
Budget.
in that, you know how there's 3 columns in your budget book. There's bonded, there's operating.
tax supported and
tax
other.
supported, yeah. So there's 3 columns. It's the left column, the bonded projects tie to these numbers in what you're approving this evening. So you've already approved by virtue of voting on the budget on each of the individual project that goes into this bond authorization. This is just the mechanism by law that we have to show to our bond counsel to be able to go off and get a bond issued. They have to see, our lawyers will want to see the resolution approved by
Exactly.
both the Board of Finance and the Town Council saying, in addition to approving the budget, you now also authorized us to go out and bond, even though. we-
Using their wording.
Yes.
Yes, oh yeah, this all goes through bond council.
Yeah.
And it has to be, it's vetted through from a tax perspective in terms of the length of time, 10, 20 years that we know behind the scenes. And that these projects are appropriate for what we're doing for going out to bonding.
So are these estimates or do you have actual contracts
We
on any of
can't
these?
do
amounts?
contracts because we don't have the projects in place. They're not
That's what I
approved yet
thought.
from an authorization standpoint. Until you authorize it, we can't really go out because we don't have the authority to say we have the money to these vendors that we're going out to. So
Yeah, but the way the process works then, after you've done this and you've approved the authorization, then when any person that's doing a capital, so Tiger or any department, then they come to the Board of Selectmen with the bids. And we have to review the bids. So, you know, the Board of Selectmen is the purchasing agent for the town. So even though you made the resolution, we authorize the bonding, nothing gets done until it comes back through the Board of Selectmen
Mhm.
for approval and review of the bids.
Right, and then the Board of Selectmen actually asks what was the original budget versus what is now the request.
Mhm.
So depending upon, if we estimated at 350,000 and the bids came in at 315, it's actually asked, what was the original budget? The original budget was $350,000. Bids came in at $315,000, so that they're aware of how it is. Plus, every one of these lines has actually got its own separate account. So it's not a lump sum of when you approve one line in here, it's not a lump sum. And divides them all up into separate projects for us. So they're all separate projects with their own separate allocation as far as what the numbers are here, as far as each individual item. And then, so there's an account associated with that. We can't exceed that account without approval from Board of Selectmen, and Board of Finance. So there are other mechanisms in here. So once we say that we're, I'll use effective, if we were going to buy a truck and the truck was $105,000, you say for fire department, it's 105,000. The budget is 105. The account is 105. That's it. He can't go to 106 without going somewhere else to ask for
Yeah.
approval.
Mhm.
So, and it's similar for every other line that you see on here. There'll be an account associated with every single line on this sheet.
Is the contingency included in these budget numbers?
Don't include a contingency on our budget numbers, ever.
Can you transfer from one account to another? Is that what?
Finance approval.
And only in.
Within the
Within the
authorization.
authorization.
You can't go from, say, a town building authorization and put that against a fire one. You can't do
Right.
that.
So the
because
buckets,
authorization.
that you see here, that is the appropriation. We can't go outside. We call them buckets. You can't go outside the bucket. So you have to stay inside your bucket.
So the bucket is 5,095,000.
If you're asking for town buildings, the fiscal 26 program, item number 5,096,500. That's correct. That's the bucket for that. But then there's accounts associated with each one of these across the board. So the Waveney House exterior repairs will have a $2.45 million budget associated with it.
And it can't use, like, let's say the Waveney House repairs, once we go to bid, is less than the 2.45. We can't take the overage and apply it to Irwin House without Board of Finance approval.
Right.
There's no way to do that. So that's just the safety mechanism.
Is there a timeline that the bond authorization expires? Like if you have a project and you don't do it in a certain period of time that we've approved, do you then, what happens to
It
that?
doesn't expire, but what we do annually, and it'll come in front of the board, we send out to all the departments and we ask which projects are done or which ones will you not do. And then we do a full analysis of that. As Tiger said, if there's something left over in you authorized 250, you spent 215, he's giving up that difference. I go in front of the Board of Finance to say, I want to deauthorize that project. Then that budget gets taken down. It can't be spent again. So it's gone. So we go through that process to deauthorize. We did a couple, I
This
believe we
year.
did a couple this year that we said we're not going to do. When they were going through the 5-year, it was, are you going to get this done in the next year or so? Nope. Okay, we're not. We pulled a lot out of this year's
Yeah.
capital plan. We pulled a lot because it wasn't going to get done. We already, to date, that we usually do this sometime in July. To date, I have about 65 projects that are going to be closed. Whether it's been fully used from a budget perspective or there's a balance, that will get deauthorized and taken down.
Where do you do with it?
It's just a budget adjustment. So I take
So
the
it's not
same
real
thing. It's
money
instead of
that you-
250, it goes down to 215 and then I bond the 215.
Because we bond
Okay,
in
so you
arrears
bond
here.
after the project
Yes,
happens.
yes.
That's what I'm trying to
Oh,
understand.
sorry.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
bond after,
okay.
yes.
And I can tell you that not all towns do that.
Right.
We have the luxury of doing that. So we bond in arrears, so we don't bond for more than what we've
We need.
expended.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Thank
Moody's actually likes the fact that we pay as we go.
you. Who?
Moody's, the rating service.
Well,
It's
they
a
used to
double-edged-
like it.
they used to-
They're not,
Yeah.
there's.
They do like that control of doing it. We're not borrowing more than we need, but it has a different effect because we're
Right.
doing it after the fact.
Because we're pulling down the
General
general fund
fund,
to pay and
No, I
so,
think that makes
Yeah.
total sense.
Yeah.
yes, and then
Yes.
we pay ourselves back.
Oh, okay.
Well, since we're on this topic, is the Irwin House demo, since that's municipal property,
Mhm.
what's the process for going, like if we're allocating the funds, then what happens? I mean, you couldn't take it down tomorrow, aren't there
No,
things? Yeah.
no. So,
Okay.
I mean, and let me start and then you can follow up what I miss.
Sure.
So we, Tiger put together a budget originally it was a budget to repair. And it was, I think that's probably important to this history. There was $1.4 million to just repoint, fix the roof and fix the windows and woodworking around the building. And if you remember, there was a lot of discussion about that doesn't do anything to the interior of the building, doesn't get it up to code. It's not ADA compliant. It's not really fit for purpose. So the Board of Finance last year, not this year's budget process, last year's budget process said, they wanted to know what could we use that building for if, we were going to spend $1.3 million. And, through the last year, I was talking to a lot of outside organizations. Could we use it? There is a deed restriction on that property. I mean, the Irwins are still alive. So, maybe you could get a modification on the deed restriction, but there are very limited uses for what that building is allowed to. You can't put a school there. You can't put commercial businesses in there. I mean, it's very tightly regulated what you can do in there. So through reaching out to a bunch of different organizations, didn't really find an organization willing to go into that building. And in talking to a lot of people, doesn't have historic significance. It's not the original home on the property. And it's going to take a lot of money. And so I can tell you, I've circulated this through, I've socialized it through a lot of different groups over the last 6 months. And I have gotten maybe one person say, well, something is interesting. I have gotten zero. Most people are like, take it down. It's just a big tax hole and, we could use the money more efficiently in town. So, I listened and I said, okay, and I wasn't convinced initially that I wanted to take it down, but, I really circulated it a lot. And then, so once Tiger got, we had, he went and got estimates of what it was going to be to take the building down. But it's also a 1960s building, so it's likely to have lead and maybe some asbestos. So the Board of Selectmen this last week approved $50,000 to do an environmental review to see how much, abatement we need to do. Once they do that, then we'll get a bid for remediation.
Correct. Right.
And then we'll have an all-in cost for that. And then we'll take it, then we'll work, if, as long as we're within budget, we will move to
But you have
demolish.
to
the-
notice it, like I'm thinking all the things you have to do to let the public know that that's going to happen, right?
We also would have to go,
Publish it in the paper.
we've got to go through an 824 as well. So an 8-24 review with P and Z, which is section 8-24 of the state statute, says that we can't just knock down a municipal building without it going through P and Z to see whether or not it fits with the town's plan of conservation development. Through that process, there's a public hearing as well. That's actually a public hearing for that. So we have that process, and then we have the actual demolition notice, the notice of demolition. So the property would get a sign out in front saying that the property would be, that the subject to demolition. If someone comes forward, then it would have to review at that point in time. But there's several steps that have to occur. The first, as Deanna mentioned, is we're going to get the environmentalist out there, Fuss and O'Neill, to take a look, and then they'll give us guidelines as to how to proceed. Then at that point in time, we'll go to bid and determine how much money it is. Hopefully it'll fit within the budget that we allocated. We had approximately $175,000 for demolition and about 200 approximately for the environmental, because we were told it was either between 1 and 4. So I just took the 2 in the middle and said, okay, we'll just ask for 2 at present. And then we'll come back at that point in time and during that process, after we get the bids and we determine that we have enough money, then go for the 8-24. And then we have to go get a contractor first before we can have the building posted.
You
So
mean
we go-
between 0 and 4?
Excuse me?
You said between 1 and 4 and you picked the middle.
It was 1 and 4, but you could say 0 and 4 is 200, but 1 and 4, and I kind of split it down instead of
I
saying.
like the more
250.
conservative route. I mean,
Right, so-
and you're usually spot on, so I like that.
Yeah, no, it was like between 1 and 4. I could have done it at 250, but I said, I'll just go with 200.
Like it.
So, because I knew there was going to be something. So that first 100 was kind of a given, so I figured. But there's a bunch of steps that have to go public notice wise for people to know what's happening before the building would come down.
I mean, unless you follow meetings, I think there is an element of the public that doesn't know. So I don't know how.
Tell you, I've been at lots of very large meetings. I did the New Canaan Men's Club. I did the speaking at the Presbyterian Church, which was open to the public, and there were probably 75 people. I mean, and I put it in my newsletter. I mean, I have been socializing, and then the budget process. So it has been socialized, and I can tell you my neighbor is a preservationist. She's one of the main preservationists in this town. And she was at the meeting at the Presbyterian Church, and I told her directly, I said, and I don't want to use her name here, but I said, and just so you know, I know you'll be upset, but this is what we've decided. So I am not shying away from making it very public that this was a process that we went through. I wasn't there initially when I got in office. I wasn't sure that, I was thinking maybe but over the last year and a half, I've really gotten comfortable with that this building needs to come down. And we have 2.4 million that needs to go into Waveney House. I mean, that's our gem in town, and it has massive needs. And so, as a community, we need to start to make decisions about where is it we're going to be investing our resources. And, we also have Lapham Center. Lapham Community Center needs 635,000, or is that one 635 in the budget?
Yeah, it's a little bit higher, 685.
685. That has significant needs for repair. So at some level, Amy's in the room, she and Penny, and it's too bad Penny's not online tonight, but 10 years ago, this building was identified, and I didn't bring it in the room tonight. I have the original plans when this property was purchased 20 years ago. And the plan was to demolish the house and do a ruins garden. It was not to save the house. So this has been the plan all along. It's just, as we all know, it's very difficult to take things down in this town. And I understand that. I mean, I love historic buildings, so I understand the desire to save things, but this was never the plan. Yeah. That's true. That's over $1 million.
$50,000 out of the Lapham budget. There was a 635 I'm joking. You said 635.
I know. I don't remember every number. I
said six. I'm like, wow, look, she's just hammering everything. This is amazing.
The house has been used though for swing space, right? I mean, my kids got their vaccines in there, the building department was in there, so it has actually filled a need in the town. And I know to make it ADA compliant, it just needs an elevator. The elevator is not the same elevator that would be in Waveney, because it's not, right in the middle of
inside
everything.
needs, in addition, it needs significant repairs. So it's not fit for purpose. So we worked around it.
Right.
So what I've always said is, and this isn't a discussion for this conversation, is if we actually think we need a building, it would be significantly cheaper for us to demolish and rebuild something in that same spot that was fit for purpose. Because it's not if it was historical, I'd say that's not the right decision. Because this one is not, my thought is, if we decide down the road, not this year, and it will have to be studied, and I know my fellow selectmen might say no more buildings, but if we need more space, it'll be cheaper just to build something that's fit for use.
I mean, I was curious about that because when I was looking at commercial rates to build, it's 8,000 square feet, right?
Mhm.
So to build commercially, it's about 800 to 1,000 per square foot. So that would be an $8 million building at minimum with tariffs and things like that. So the
And we
cost
probably wouldn't
benefit.
build that. We
What?
wouldn't build that.
Yeah, and assuming.
We wouldn't build that.
So what would be the plan then?
We don't have a plan right now. Right now it's just to demolish. And right now, we do not have swing space. We have empty commercial real estate in town that we could use if we needed extra office space for a period of time. I mean, look at what the police department did. They rented, 39 Locust Street, and, that's not the only office space in town. So, if we had a temporary need for something, we're moving, we're looking to move New Canaan Cares into a town-owned building because we have excess space. So, you make a decision at the time. I don't know that space it's vacant most of the time. In fact, in my tenure, Cares is in there, and
CERT is in there too, right?
they have things stored there, but now with the new PD, all that stuff's going to the PD. All of CERT stuff. They have tons of space in that police department that could be used for storage and meeting space and things like that. They have multiple conference rooms.
And if memory serves, it could be totally wrong. I got vaccinated there and my kids did too, but at the time, Vine Cottage, which is where the health department is, was undergoing construction. So now they offer them there.
got vaccinated there. I got vaccinated at Lapham.
And then Lapham had it too. So
Yeah, so I mean, we have spaces.
it's, I think when you compare what the maintenance and the improvements would be, I mean, just 1.3 to 1.4 for the roof and the windows is a ton of money. And if it can't be used for commercial space, which I assume includes like weddings and parties and things like that, then there's no like revenue source for it. And you can only use it for a nonprofit or for that, it's a lot of money. And I think you're right. I think the Waveney is the priority because there is a revenue generation from that we can get to. And it's approved for that use. The deed restrictions at Irwin are pretty onerous.
Yeah, I mean, this is Monday morning quarterback, but this is not my particular opinion, but I have been approached by people to say, can we get an expert to look at it? Someone
that what this would
in
do?
what?
Isn't that what this would do? Isn't part of that?
No, an expert in
A
the
review.
field. that
I had
looks-
2 reviews. We had 2 reviews of the exterior, because when I got into office, there had been 1 review of repairing the outside.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? We need to get a second opinion. And so I got a second opinion. So this hasn't been reviewed once, it's been reviewed twice.
Yeah, I think
By
what
structural engineers.
the, I
That's what
understand.
their task is, to review the structural soundness of a
Yes.
building and what it needs to be maintained.
Yeah,
And
I think that's great. I think I was talking more about like someone in historical preservation who would look at the building and see what like a pre-development study from that perspective, because we're not experts in that. Like, there are people that specialize in this. So that's just something that I was approached by someone and say, if you're a doctor and if you don't feel well, we don't diagnose each other. We say, go to a doctor. So that's their expertise, historical
Well, this was a
preservation.
1960s building. It wasn't the original house. The original house that matches the barn is the historically significant probably, but it burned down. This was a rebuild in 1960. And so you might have an affinity for it, but I would argue, and Christina Ross is the architect on the panel.
Yes.
And I'm not sure. Most people I've spoken to, and I have spoken to a lot of people about it, have said that this is not a historically significant.
Gorse Pavilion would be.
And that's
preserved, right? Okay.
As is the barn, because the barn is.
It's right next to Gore's Pavilion, though I've been told by preservationists that makes it significant. But anyway, this is, I just, there are state grants available that will pay for an expert to look at it from a historical perspective.
They're not that
you
easy
know-
to get. They really aren't. I mean, I know that people say grant, but I'm getting freaked out because you have Rita in front of your name.
Oh my God.
I was like, wait,
You
I'm not
knew it.
talking to
It's
Rita.
totally my
I'm
fault.
Rita.
It's totally my fault. Yet again. I couldn't get the chair to work and I grabbed the wrong.
Yeah. So, but sorry, Rita.
You out? I mean, I
And
feel
it's
like
really
that was
Rita.
Wait, I'm confused.
Too much allergy medicine.
Yeah. No, but yeah, so I think, one, we spend a ton of money on survey. I mean, I was not psyched getting a second opinion, but I thought it was important enough given sort of that park but it is, I have spoken to a lot of people in that field and, I don't.
It sounds like the public will have a chance to speak. So,
Oh, you
I mean,
okay?
that was my reason
Jennifer,
for
Tom.
asking, like, at what point, does the public have input? So.
I just have a quick question. I was just curious. Do you reference from the past, like I think you called it a rune garden. Does the Beautification League or the Garden Club have some plans out there? Do you know?
There are no plans for it. That was part of the master plan that was developed by Richter and Segan in 06, 07. And it was a ruins garden. In essence, they wanted to knock the building down and keep portions of the walls, standing in some locations, and then develop a pleasure garden. It was basically an entire area of pleasure gardens, but there was no hard, fast design at the time. It was, as I said, it was just a master plan to then say, okay, this is an avenue that you want to go forward on. But nothing was developed past that. Kind of gives you a jumping off point, but nothing from that point of view.
Okay.
But we could certainly, the thought is that as we go forward and the area is then leveled, and it's basically a blank slate at that point in time. We've already spoken to the garden club about helping us fill that space.
So are they the ones, they're the ones who already tend to Irwin, so they could.
The
like,
garden club,
potential partners.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're aware of this process, and they're aware that there'll be an open space for, for beautification after. I should say potential beautification after.
Thomas.
So we have debated in the past various historic building issues, like the famous gas station, whatever, that it sits in Mead
Richmond
Park.
Hill Garage.
Yeah. In many cases, in most cases, if there's something that gets the town behind a preservation effort, it's typically because it's free. Someone else is paying for this. In this case, we're talking about something which is arguably historically relevant, but not compellingly. And it's not free. It's the taxpayers paying to make this historic decision. And I think it's very clear to me that there's not going to be a groundswell of support for this building. But the second point is, we've already made this decision. When we adopted the budget, we authorized this as a budget item. That's our action plan.
We're just clarifying the process. I don't know.
Oh, no, that's fine. And as you pointed out, the public will have notice with demolition. But I was assuming that where Kim was going is to try to say, can we stop this process? And I'm just arguing that that's
Yeah,
not what we want
I
to do.
just want to go on the record as saying, we're just clarifying the process and we did vote on it and I'm clear on that. I'm just trying to understand the thinking behind it because we haven't discussed it as a council.
Fair
But
enough.
I'm not going back on what we've already all
Totally
voted on.
Totally fair.
And again, we're just authorizing the bond. It might not happen again.
Yeah.
There's the time to have the conversation about,
I never want to use the word just because everything we do is important, right? But I do think the timeline of events is that we're here today. We've already made decisions. So I don't think this is anything just, it's just, this is the next step of what we've already committed to. And now this is the process. And I think we're all in belief and taking next steps.
So with that said, that's what.
Now, what do we do? What are we gonna do?
So does anyone have any questions before we get to the motion? Does anyone have any other questions on the 2-pager with all the numbers that we already discussed and voted on?
Because if not, there's no reason to do them individually, right?
So if there's no
I like
question,
that package.
if there's no
No, that's a great
questions.
package.
So, Deanna, you said for the process, I can just refer to
Yes.
as it appears in the agenda?
yes. Posted in the, or as is written in your agenda.
Okay, so I'll formulate hopefully what is an appropriate motion. So I'll make a motion to approve the 11 bond resolutions that are set forth in the town council agenda for this evening's meeting. Again, it's resolutions 1 through 11 without any amendments. So that's my motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, Hillary seconds. Is there any discussion? All right, having no discussion, we'll move forward to a vote. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. And done.
Nice job.
All
Nice
right.
job. That's solid.
What?
Sure.
This, the library, the center school lot?
So we're right now well, first this had to happen.
Yeah.
But we've been discussing it with a lighting consultant at present, and we've just chosen a light itself. And he's finalizing his design. And at that point in time, we'll start gathering pricing and then go forward from there. So the earliest we could have acted was say May 6th, will probably be a couple of weeks past that. And we're looking at sometime in June to redo all those lights. All right, no problem.
Okay, thanks, everyone. So just for purposes of town council, just before we break, just a bit of homework. Now that we're completely done with our budget season, and now we don't have committee reports on this, and I've kind of laid off on those for quite some time. But I think as we're all in agreement to kind of be a little bit more robust in our involvement with whether it be the budget or, you know, any other items in the town that we think warrant our discussion and input. I want us all on our individual committees to consider getting committee meetings publicly noticed to the extent there's anything within the purview of those particular committees. I know bylaw and ordinance have some stuff coming up, but you know, and they do a lot of heavy lifting throughout the year, which is fantastic. But we want the infrastructure, you know, public safety. I know I'd like to do something soon, but we all need to get moving on that process. You know, we don't want to just pay lip service to it because I think we do want to start, you know, talking budget with people way early on in the process. So just start thinking of that because I am going to have committee reports on for the next time. And you know, I'd like us to, you know, all be reporting something. And if it's just a matter of appearing at a commission meeting or like, I'm going to go to the fire commission meeting, but I really want us to be, you know, we're all on committees, use your authority and notice it up. All right. Any questions? Well, let me go, Jennifer.
And I'm only bringing this up like because it's like just time sensitive. If anyone's interested, I didn't realize we weren't going to do the committee reports. And so I just thought if anybody is interested and unfortunately can't be there, but Parks and Rec Commission is doing a walkthrough at Kiwanis, like, because there's going to be a commission that these guys approved to start coming up with a master plan. So if anybody's interested in just doing that walkthrough and being, oh, sorry, Tuesday at 10 a.m., the 29th.
This Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Christina.
We've had
Your
the,
microphone.
sorry,
It's on.
we have had the town council rules in the hands of your committee for almost 5 months. And I will push to then, if you don't have any changes, we'll bring it up at the next agenda meeting. And
But we're going to send out an invitation tomorrow to set up a bylaws and ordinances committee, and that definitely will be on the agenda. And we started reviewing them. So that committee meeting will be hopefully in the next 10 days.
okay.
Excellent. It's great news. As usual, you guys are moving forward. Let's keep it moving forward. All right. With that said, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Yeah.
We work together as a group.
Yeah,
Honestly, I wanna
I
say
didn't know
that
we
for-
were gonna